Welcome to the Nourishment Mindset podcast, your guide to good food, good health, and a good life. And now, here's your host, Nutrition Network advisor and author of the Nourishment Mindset, Dixie Huey.
Happy Transformation Tuesday, y'all. Welcome to or back to the Nourishment Mindset podcast, where we are on a metabolic mission to achieve vitality and reverse chronic lifestyle conditions using real whole foods, straight talk, sound healing practices, and the pleasures of the table. That last piece is a big driver behind my book, The Nourishment Mindset. It is my opinion that a lot of us in the health, wellness, nutrition space can tend to get a little bit dogmatic. Once we find something that works for us and many of our clients or patients, we tend to go into that lane and perhaps do so at our own loss, because we must remember that every human body has a different physiology, and this is all about vitality and enjoying our food. And so things that work for some people are not going to work for others. So just a reminder, I am not into the dogma of the diet sector. So I would like to thank those who have bought the Nourishment Mindset. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I kind of wish that Amazon would send me an email or something when someone buys the book so that I can thank them, because y'all, I don't know, if you don't buy the book from my site for a signed copy, I don't know when you buy it off Amazon. So thank you. It is very meaningful. And I hope that the message and the teachings and hopefully learning from many of my failures will inspire you to share this message with others in the hopes that we can turn things around. In America, 90% of adults are metabolically unfit. 70+% are overweight, with that being 42+% obese. And the thing that scares me more than any of that is that over half of us are on the road to type 2 diabetes. So somewhere on that spectrum, starting with insulin resistance to pre-diabetes, what is called pre-diabetes. I've said before, to me, it's just diabetes. It's not like pre-pregnancy. You're either pregnant or not, all the way out to type 2 diabetes. But the great news, y'all, is that there is a way to fix all this. And that is what the metabolic mission is all about. And you can have fun doing it with the pleasures of the table. So thank you again, book buyers. Thank you also to podcast reviewers. So I have finally found Abe Lever. Thank you, Mr. Abe Lever. If you're watching, you see that I'm doing some air quotes for reaching out to me so that I could get you the book that I promised. Here's what Abe had to say about the podcast. A refreshing take. I'm digging it. I think you had me at favor fat. Your approach to tearing down the stronghold in the minds of Americans with regard to fat and coming at it with the way you do is refreshing. I first heard you on another podcast in the backdrop of me reading about frontiersmen in the mid to late 1700s. No, I wasn't listening to a podcast and reading a book simultaneously. So that was probably Vinny's podcast. And Abe has more to say, but I'm going to be honest with y'all, my screenshot that I pulled up cuts off the rest of his review. So if you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can read the rest. And I have included this in the email that goes out to subscribers so y'all can read the whole thing. But again, many thanks, Mr. Abe. And to all who have reviewed the podcast, really, really appreciate that. And the offer still stands. If you want to review the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Google Play, I am here to send you a complimentary signed copy of the Nourishment Mindset. However, as I don't receive indication from any of those platforms when I get a review, nor do I have a way to really efficiently track you down, I just ask that you get in touch with me to point out that you've done that and let me know your address, shipping address, and I'll sign and send. So, and you can always get in touch with me. The main place is just favorfat.com, and that's where you'll see links to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this, you see I have my headphones in today. That's because inevitably I sit down to record, and the land of the landscaping here in Florida fires up the machine. So don't want any background noise. But we've got Nourishment Mindset on Instagram. If you're a LinkedIner, just Dixie Huey, however you want to get in touch with me, but favorfat.com. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you will always get the first information whenever an episode or an article is dropped, and that's just favorfat.substack.com. So, I am fired up today. This idea for today's show, type 2 diabetes myths, came from, I will say, I need to be careful, a nameless gym. We'll just leave it at that. And I was in this nameless gym and noticed that there was a blood pressure machine. And I thought, great, it's wonderful for people to be checking their blood pressure. Then I noticed on the blood pressure machine, of course, this caught my eye since I work with people who have a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, says in giant letters. And I have put this not so perfect photo I took of these signs into the subscriber email so you can see it for yourself. What is type 2 diabetes? So I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it says diabetes is a disease in which blood glucose levels are above normal. True. People with diabetes have problems converting food to energy. Yes, there is some impairment there. After a meal, food is broken down into sugar called glucose, which is carried by the blood cells through the body. The cells use the hormone insulin, which is made in the pancreas, to help them process blood glucose into energy. So yes, it's not quite how I would describe it, but it is true that the beta cells of your pancreas make insulin, and insulin is released after you eat a meal to help bring the blood sugars down into normal range. Now, I am one of these people that sometimes wears a continuous glucose monitor. I think they're awesome. I think it's ridiculous that they have to be prescribed. I have a way that I got mine because I do not have this diagnosis. And off the air, if you want to email me, get in touch with me on my website, I will share with you how I have access to this. It's from a different country. So anywho, I think that it's wonderful to know your blood sugar, but there are a lot of people in the low carb space that are now like afraid of any blood sugar spikes. And it's not true that you should just be this one line. We do want to mitigate. And if you're watching, you see me doing sort of this roller coaster move with my hand. When you eat a high sugar or even a high starch diet, after you eat, your glucose rises, and then eventually it's going to plummet, and then you're going to want more, and up and down and up and down. That's why I work with clients, especially those who have a goal of losing excess body fat and just improving metabolic health, to help just flatten those lines a little bit. So it's not to have a nothing, but it's normal to go up and down. And we're going to get into this in a minute because I got some real problems with what comes next. So it goes on to say that, people with this diagnosis do not use insulin properly, blah, 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 on and on. Okay, so let's get down into the good, or rather infuriating part. All right, what does it mean to have prediabetes? It means you're at risk for having type 2 diabetes and heart disease. The good news is if you have prediabetes, you can reduce the risk of getting diabetes and even return to normal blood glucose levels. True freaking that. How they say to do it, bull freaking shit. If your blood glucose is higher than normal, but lower than the diabetes range, which we now call prediabetes, you should have your glucose checked in 1 or 2 years. Okay, no, laughable. All right, I'm minimum once a year to have a full metabolic panel run, and I'll go into that in another episode. I think I've said it before on this show. But something that almost no practitioner runs is fasting insulin. This little ticket can show you if you're on that train to developing what they call prediabetes. Again, to me, once you're there, you're just there. You're pregnant, you're pregnant. You got issues with blood sugar, you have type 2 diabetes. So I realize that's controversial, but I get to have my own opinions. I'm not canceled yet. So definitely getting a fasting insulin checked. But where this really gets problematic, and this just pisses me off. Embrace your health. Lose weight if you are overweight. No shit. 2 common reasons for being overweight are eating too much and not being active enough. Okay, that's great. Blame the patient. That's awesome. Or possibly could it be that the advice that we give our clients and our patients is horrible and it doesn't work? Because what you're to take away from eating too much and not being active enough, this is the old Kaiko, calories in, calories out. Eat less, move more. Guess what? Everyone's done that. It doesn't freaking work. Okay, so this second page of the sign is where probably my blood pressure. It's a good thing I didn't test it. It wouldn't have been good. If you eat more calories than your body burns up, the extra calories are stored as fat, and too much fat results in being overweight. Okay, fine. There's certainly like a physiology there. But again, whenever I see something that's blaming the patient, it burns me up. So we go on to why should an overweight person lose weight? Your blood cholesterol levels may improve. Oh my goodness. Okay, thanks. There's so much nuance here. Too low of cholesterol can put you at risk for stroke, but I'm not going to digress off the diabetes topic. Your blood pressure levels may go down. True. Yep. And your blood sugar level may be better controlled. Okay. Yes and no. I work with patients who have no weight to lose and still have wackadoodle, out of range blood glucose levels. So then the best part, ready, set, lose. You can make losing weight a family project or set your own goal. Pick a day to begin, make simple changes slowly and stick to them. Okay, I don't actually have a problem with that, but here's where I have the problem. Prepare food by broiling or baking more often instead of frying. All right, fine. Of course, fried food, no bueno. Eat fewer breaded and fried foods. Absolutely. I would say not just fewer, like extreme minimization / elimination. Eat, here it is, lean meat, fish, poultry without the skin. Horrible advice. Absolutely horrible advice. I'm not saying not to eat meat, fish, or poultry. What I'm saying is nature, God, Buddha, whoever you're into, put the meat on the planet in an intact way. We need to honor the whole animal because the whole animal is what brings us the whole nutrient density. When we throw away the skin, the bones, we are losing incredible nutrients and we're being wasteful, not cool. So it should say eat meat, fish, poultry, embrace animal foods. They are the most nutrient dense, foods on the planet. Eat more fruits, whole grain products, and vegetables. Really? Okay, let's pick on the worst. Eat more whole grain products. So your liver, when you eat grains and you have type 2 diabetes, which is essentially a disease of carbohydrate intolerance, turns those starches into sugar and your blood sugar is elevated. So this is horrible advice. Eliminate or drastically reduce whole grain and all the other starch products. Eat more fruits. Sorry, not if you have insulin resistance. Some people can eat fruit. There ain't nothing wrong with fruit. It's nature's candy. It's wonderful. But if you are trying to help mitigate your blood glucose spikes and get off of the diabetes type 2 train, eating more fruit ain't gonna help, okay? Now, eat more vegetables, absolutely. Plenty of vitamins and minerals in there, but I must say that there's a caveat. There are some people with gut issues, and for a first step, they can try simply better preparation methods of their vegetables versus elimination. There are some good vitamins and minerals in vegetables. Often eating things like kale raw is going to tear up your gut. For more on this, see Plant Paradox by Stephen Gundry. Great book. Don't agree with everything he says. Drink fewer alcoholic and high-calorie beverages. Of course, but high-calorie beverages, drinking your calories means that there's almost no nutrition in there unless we're talking about milk. But not fewer, no high calorie beverages. Drink freaking water. I know that's boring, but you can also flavor it with lemon, lime, what have you. And then drink 6 to 8 glasses of water every day. Sure, fine. So this kind of stuff bothers me because it's everywhere. It's accepted. It's got some truth to it. It's got some BS to it. But we wonder why people are confused and struggling. I have no idea how old this was. Source, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Institute of Health. Oh boy, there's so much I could say, but I'd probably piss all of you off. So we're just going to move away from that source and just understand that this is misinformation in a day where we are very, very upset about misinformation. Here it is right here in front of me at this nameless gym. So the wonderful news when it comes to someone who is insulin resistant, has a diagnosis of prediabetes or type 2 diabetes is this is a reversible condition. And that is something that it's part of my metabolic mission to get that out there. That simple thing. Hey, it's reversible. Patients should be given the option to take a path that will help them reverse this disease. Instead, many of them are told, sorry, Sue or Sam, you have an irreversible condition. It's only going to get worse. We're sorry. We're going to help you. You should eat less, move more, take all these medications, and slowly we'll just give you more and more and more. And the saddest part is when someone with type 2 diabetes ends up on insulin, because insulin is a fat storage hormone. So it's treating an alcoholic with a bottle of whiskey. So I am not saying don't take your insulin if you have type 2 diabetes. And I must say, none of what I am talking about is to be brought over into type 1 diabetes, an autoimmune condition. This is not, I don't work with, I have very little knowledge of that condition, but I do know a thing or two about helping people with the type 2 diabetes diagnosis recover. So all I am asking is that providers and those in the health and wellness space realize that there is a way to reverse these conditions and that it should at least be offered to the patient. Now, not every patient is going to want to say, okay, I'm carbohydrate intolerant. I need to enjoy a very low carbohydrate diet to reverse this condition, because that is absolutely possible. There's amazing research here. This is part of what I do. They should at least be given the choice to do so. To not be given the choice, to me, is a tragedy, and it's absolutely ridiculous here in 2023. So reversal should be an option. We're going to end this little short solo cast there. I will say that the U.S. Dietary Guidelines Committee for 2025 has started to accept comments. Mine are scathing. They're a slight edit of what I submitted a year ago. This committee continues to not recognize low carbohydrate diets, and to me that means that they have blood on their hands. This is ridiculous in this day and age. They don't have to recommend them for everyone, but to not even consider them and to not look at all of the research of the amazing health benefits, including plenty of randomized controlled trials, that's unacceptable. This is your taxpayer dollars at work. I talk about this in my book, The Nourishment Mindset. So you'll get more then and there. If you have any questions, this is a huge topic. I just wanted to zone in on this shitty sign that I saw in this gym and get the message out there that it is completely reversible if you're willing to accept the carbohydrate intolerance. I will say diagnosis. So we're on the way out, folks. Go to favorfat.com. There you'll be able to buy a signed copy or have a direct link to Amazon. You can find all my social stuff there. Please feel free to suggest a topic. If you see something that pisses you off, or better yet, makes you happy, and you want me to talk about it or give an opinion, just send me a note. Be great. Many thanks, y'all. Namaste. Santé to your health. and au revoir.